Welcome back to Arise Prime Time. I'm Charles Enyegolu, and listening to the conversations we had earlier in the show, tonight's lead commentator, and as you know, this is the point that we bring him in to give his perspective on nearly everything we've covered in the program and beyond. And today I'm joined in the studio by the public affairs commentator, Arise news analyst and head of mass communications at Bayes University in Abuja, the enormously cerebral Professor Abiodun Adeniyi. But it's true. I mean, what can I say? I mean, you don't become the head of a mass communications department by being decidedly uncerebral, do you?
Hey, Charles, let's get on to it. Thank you.
Well, listen, you heard Clement Nwankwo there, very well respected gentleman. He's covered elections in the past, had a few bruises in the process in this country, but I mean, what grabbed your attention from the things he was sort of, his analysis, which seemed to be that, it's not all shipshape and seaworthy, but we're kind of limping along?
Well, I think Clement is a very outstanding personality in terms of his consistency, his professionalism, and he has come as a technocrat, somebody whose role in the development of our democracy has been consequential.
Absolutely.
If I remember very correctly, he was also the brain behind the formation of I think the
situation group.
The civil society or group that fought for the restoration of human rights in the period of Babangida.
Absolutely.
And I think he did it with Olisa Agbako.
From
then on, he's been very consistent.
Yeah.
He has transmitted very well. These are the kind of people that at some point should be given national award. I'm not sure he's been listed at all. And
I agree.
I think that it's somebody that shouldn't be missed. Yeah, that's right.
I agree.
But back to what he said, I think, again, he's just reminding us of what we're doing, that yes, we should make a differentiation between, between politicking and politics, and probably between politics and the democratic process. The democratic process should be held sacrosanct. It should be sacred. It shouldn't be toyed with. Yes, the politicians may be doing their acts, but there's a pillar that is still there, and that pillar should not be shifted. That's the pillar of democracy. And what is the pillar of democracy? Transparency and accountability injected into the electioneering process. We need a free, fair, and credible, even transparent election. And the body that can bring that about is INEC. INEC with the support of the government, as the case could be. That's what I think is the philosophy behind his submission. And that's why he kept away, from making judgment analysis on the polls, on all those on the candidates.
Do you think that people like that, based on their experience, tend to be quite pessimistic? Because they've kind of seen all things, and they've set a very high bar. And for anybody to reach that bar is virtually impossible.
But we need them. We need them, Charles. I think we need them because they represent the soul of the society, the conscience of the society. So when you keep looking at them, they've
got to be really high up
you keep feeling that yes, we're still not there yet. Do you remember when the late Khalifa Ami was alive? People saw him as utopian. They started saying things that was practically impossible. But we need those people, those kind of people, to remind us of our imperfections. And their consistency is always very, very appreciated. We still have quite a number of them around. Bishop Kuka, to my mind, is one of them.
He certainly is.
Femi Falana is also one of them.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but in the area of politics and the building of our democracy, Clement Nwankwo, I think Clement Nwankwo is actually another person that we cannot discount, really. And of course, I see him becoming active in the build-up to the election. There are quite a number of people that also work with him. So many of them as well in the civil society, the CDD, many of these organizations. They play a very important role in the justification of the description of democracy as a multi-stakeholder affair. The civil society, the NGO, the media, are critical in the determination of a successful election. And we know what democracy means in the survival of a nation like ours. There's no other way to go other than a free, fair, credible election through democracy. But yes, our democracy, there are questions around it, how we probably need to bring about some reform. But because we have not done those reforms, we're not necessarily ingenious yet. The level at which we are now, should be played correctly. And how do we play it correctly? Back to what I said earlier, that it can happen through the instrumentality of INEC, empowering them to be free and fair. You know, continue with their injection of technology.
That's the key, isn't it?
Yeah, continue with the injection of technology into the process, because there's very high hope that if BVAS is got right, if it is done right, it will help in minimizing the question of rigging. The last election, there are still allegations, even as we speak, you know, that the election was not free and fair. There were allegations here and there, charges here and there, despite the overall overarching submission of the Supreme Court. We are hoping that in 2023, after the election, everybody will be satisfied. We have seen flashes of it in the off-season election. We saw it in Ondo, in Edo, you know, in Ekiti. Less argument, even despite resort to courts. But we can take this thing further beyond the off-season election to the central, federal, general elections, as the case could be.
That's a very good point. Let's move away from Clement Nwankwo to Hannatu Musawa, who's a deputy spokesperson for the Tinubu Presidential Campaign Council. Very articulate young woman. Also clearly very passionate about her candidate, but also, which is a rarity in that kind of business, quite honest.
Yeah, I think she was very honest, and of course, do not forget that she has an illustrious background, you know, sound, clean education, and she's bringing it to bear in a political process that is reputed for murky waters and for some level of shenanigans, you know, and of course, her appointment looks like an attempt, you know, to bring about some kind of gender balancing, and she's living up to expectation because of her sophistication in the rendition of her thoughts. And, you know, I just believe that we cannot we cannot make progress if in an atmosphere of dishonesty, and the more leaders begin to speak the truth, the better for all of us. And this leadership is not just political leadership, not just those in government, but we're also talking about leaders at the level of institutions. And the parties are representative of political institutions. So if we have leaders like Hannatu, you know, speaking the truth and trying to balance these things out, saying that they are going to bring the imperfections of the present administration on board and grow with it and work with it, leverage on the experiences of Bola Tinubu in Lagos, you know, and bring about improvement. I think it's not a bad thing to say, really. So largely, I think she was spot on.
Thank you very much indeed, Prof. I appreciate your very incisive analysis there. And of course, he is an Arise News analyst, so he would be incisive, wouldn't he? And he is also, of course, a public affairs commentator and head of mass communications at Bayes University in Abuja. Thank you very much indeed.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's it for this edition of Arise Prime Time. Join us again tomorrow from me and the entire team here in Abuja. Bye-bye, and thank you for watching.